For me, it's funny. I used to be able to go to my brother's football games before I was legally able to play football in Pop Warner. And I remember being on the sideline with my dad. Like I just couldn't wait to get out there. He's like, "No, you gotta wait your turn. You gotta wait your turn." And I'm like, "Man, I can play. I can play."
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. Now, I got to cut this one to you real quick. This is the best view we have ever had for an episode. Now, I know Brandin Cooks has a nice smile over here, but like, man, this view is what it's all about. So I need you guys, even though this view is beautiful, pay attention because I'm telling you right now, this episode is going to go way beyond what you expect. Because we're not talking about Biletnikoff Awards. We're not talking about catching passes from Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Jared Goff. We're not talking about touchdowns or playing in Super Bowls. We're going to talk about life. And that, to me, is what it's all about. You hear me say it all the time. It's all about relationships.
Absolutely.
And Cooksy, man, I remember the first time we ever meet.
Yeah.
And I look at that necklace that you're wearing.
Yeah.
And I said, man, tell me about that necklace.
Yeah.
So you all know my burn comes from my mom, and you talk about that immediate connection. Man, tell us about that necklace you're wearing.
You know, this necklace with my dad on it. And, you know, as we've been going through it, it's a lot where my burn comes from. You know, he died when I was a young kid at 6. And, you know, ever since then, it's just been one of those things that, gosh, you know, he's always with me. He's always that fire on how, you know, I can take care of my family and be there for my mom in the ways that he was. So it's one of those things that reminds me every single day that I'm blessed to get to do what I'm able to do, and in reality, a lot of that motivation comes from him.
So when you think of that motivation from your dad,
Yeah.
how does that show up in the day-to-day? And take me back to when you fell in love with the game of football, and then how has that burn showed up in getting to, because everybody wants to go play in the league,
No doubt.
but they don't realize you better find that internal
You
fuel
gotta
and put in
find
that
something.
work.
You know, for me, it's funny. I used to be able to go to my brother's football games before I was legally able to play football in Pop Warner. And I remember being on the sideline with my dad. Like, I just couldn't wait to get out there. He's like, "No, you got to wait your turn. You got to wait your turn." And I'm like, "Man, I can play. I can play." And then it wasn't until 9 when I was able to play. And, you know, he was gone by then. But, you know, from that moment on, and when I started playing football, a lot of the memories of me being on the sideline with him, racing across the street to the garage, was like, okay, I always want to play it, but now it's a different meaning. The love of the game became even deeper because those memories that I have with my father was a lot that had to do around sports. And like you said, now it's that day-to-day process when you don't want to wake up as a kid, when you don't want to go do this or you want to go work out. There was a greater purpose there. And I felt like if I quit, I wasn't quitting on myself, but I was letting my mom down, my family down, and disappointing him because I know if he was here, it wouldn't be that way. So, yeah.
So you think about it every day, just like
Every
me.
day.
Because I had shared, you guys know that I got my chain with my mom's. And so it was just amazing to me that even though you got a little more bling on yours than I got on mine, but it was the circles, and it was amazing, that connection.
That connection right away. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You think about giving back to kids now, right? We're not talking about football, right? Tell us about how important it is for you, some of these lessons you learned from your dad, from your mom, about life because of the game of football. And then some of the things that you're now doing to give single moms the opportunity to travel with their kids, the philanthropic side. Like, because here's the reality. And you know it, it's a sad reality. There's a lot of guys in locker rooms going, "Man, I'm too busy. Man, I got so much stuff I have to do. How can I build a charity?"
Yeah.
Yet you've been committed to that. I think on Mother's Day, as much as you love taking pictures, right? Just to give cameras, like just to do these things. So what is it in you that says, I'm not going to make excuses, I'm going to take action?
I think the biggest thing is understanding that what I have is a gift and something that's been given to me. You know, I always say, like, you know, I'm blessed to be a blessing. And, you know, it's easy to say that, but how do you do it? And, you know, for myself, I'm continuing to learn and getting better at that because I'm finding more and more ways to be able to get involved in things that mean a lot to me. Like I said, single mom. So we're working on this program where, you know, single moms will be able to travel with their kids. Hasn't launched yet, but that's something that's in the works, and that is I'm making a commitment to make happen. Because for me, when I started traveling a couple years ago, traveling changed my life because it makes you appreciate what you have even more, because the things that you see in different countries and different people worlds, and so that's just been something for me that was a connection that you can give people money, you can give people this and that, but I think one of the biggest things is if you can give someone an experience, more than likely it's going to change their outlook on life, and it's also going to give them that burn and that motivation to be the best they can possibly be at whatever they're doing. And, you know, giving back to moms and stuff like that, what my mom means to me and what she's done in my life and for me and my brothers, is just another way for me to be able to connect to something that this blessing that I have is from something, and I need to be able to bless someone else for sure.
Now, one thing that you learn about people
Yeah.
is you take a look at their bookshelf and you learn a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
So there's like 8 or 9 books
Yep.
written by Piper,
Yep.
and everything is faith-based.
Yes.
So
yes.
can I go there with you?
Absolutely.
So I think sometimes people get scared to talk about what drives them in faith, right? And this is my show,
Yeah.
so we
can talk about
whatever we want to talk
Yeah.
about. So I think it's so unique that faith is so important to me, and the burn is so important to me, and we have that connection. But that faith-based connection, I think it's so unique.
Yeah.
Because once again, I think there's so many things that people expect they're going to hear
Yeah.
in us talking to one of the fastest guys on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable talent. But man, it's the things that you choose to do that have nothing to do with the game that make that heart special. So tell us about the importance of faith in your life.
My faith drives everything. You know, I think of it all dating back to a kid and when my dad passed. There's 2 routes you can take. There's a route of negativity, and there's a route that you can take, positive influence. And for me, meeting my best friend at that age as well, his family, they're full of faith. They always went to church, and I didn't as a kid. You know, my mom was working multiple jobs, so I would go with him and his family. And ever since then, I just noticed on how a family is built around faith. And not just that, but the things that faith makes you do or don't do. And obviously, it's a lot easier said than done, because as we all know that we're born with this flesh and there's a desire to sin. But I think for me and my faith is just honing me and directing my path throughout this journey. And like I said, this gift that I have is from God, and I know that is for sure. And so I want to be able to just glorify Him, and when others see me, they see Him instead. And being a light shining in a world that we live in, that we all understand that is not perfect, but any light that we can shed, and I know you do it too, the better off our world is. You know, I like to say I pray before games that at least one soul is saved through the way that I play for Him. And a lot of people may think, oh, that's such a crazy prayer. No one's paying attention to that. But it's unbelievable the type of messages that you get, or people that you meet and say, man, the way that you play the game inspired me to give my life to Christ. When you hear those type of things, that's what makes my day. Yeah.
So let's one final deep point, and then we're going to bring this thing home.
Yeah.
So I want you to speak to that person who might be, because I told you at the beginning, you'd be surprised at the angle that this interview went. So many people, they think my career defines me, right? My business defines me. I'm going to go create this product, and that's going to define me. And I hope everybody's realized that now. But I just want you to share maybe the importance of allowing the right things to be the right things in your life, and to focus on the right things. I know how important your relationship is to be a great husband and family, and how much that means to you. So tell us, how important is it to make sure you don't define yourself by your work?
Yeah, you know, it's extremely important. You know, the younger me, I did that. I defined myself in my work and the results of it. And I started to realize, good or bad, that wasn't the way to go. And I always say the journey, I appreciate the journey so much more than the end result, just because the journey you're going through so much. Whereas, you know, in the sense, a football game is for 3.5 hours, and then you're on to the next. But the fact that the journey stays going from the moment before that game, in the game, throughout the game, after the game, and before the game, I I think that is so much more important because you're affecting not just your life, but those around you. How are you affecting those around you? How are you going about your daily business? How are you going about your daily preparation? And I think you appreciate that so much more because in this game, the journey leading up to the game is painful, is joyful, it's everything and above. And so when you think back to those memories, okay, how did I get to this spot? How did I get to this game? How did I win this game? It's always been about looking back to the journey and understanding, wow, I went through all that to get to this, and you appreciate it so much more, and you're so thankful that you were able to go through the journey rather than just showing up at a spot. Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything else to be said other than that, but I will give you one action step. So I found it interesting when Brandon and I bonded. It was literally because of the loss of my mom and his father. And we both wear something around our neck to make sure that we never forget. So I'm not saying anybody needs to go buy necklaces out there, chains, but here's what I'd say to you. Is your environment set up in such a way to remind you every day of what is most important that drives you? You hear Brandon, faith, blessed, the burn. Is your environment set up? Because I know you don't want to just be on here having an interview to have an interview.
No.
It's making that difference for somebody watching. So I appreciate you. Always in your corner.
Always. And one last thing I want to leave y'all with as well. The way I think about it is I always ask myself and ask others when I throw a camp and kids, what is your why? Because I feel like when you have a why in those days and those times that you want to give up or quit, one thing I realize is when you have a why, you're not only quitting on yourself, but you're quitting on that why. And so for me, it's been my mom and now my wife. And so those times where I was feeling achy or you just feel like, man, I'm just tired today. I think to myself, well, it's easy to give up. It's a lot easier to give up on yourself. But when you have people depending on you and giving up on them as well, it keeps you from going the wrong route. So I would like to leave that as well.